pop open their computer and read what's going on in the world. There will not be a restaurant in this hotel. There is a central dining facility, and that's restricted to hotel guests only. So there's not a restaurant that's open to the public. It was kind of clear that the town didn't want that. We would prefer it, but at this point in time, we're just proposing a central dining facility for the hotel guests only. We're gonna have a small indoor-outdoor swimming pool. We intend to do a lot of landscaping on this parcel. Again, it's a sign of a quality hotel, and we wanna make sure this looks nice. We're gonna do beautiful landscaping. With respect to the holding tanks, again, there's been some concern on the town's part that our tanks will leak or will cause odors. That's not gonna be the case. We are gonna build what we term high-tech holding tanks. These tanks will have monitors on them. We will know if they leak. They won't leak, but if they do, we'll know right away. There are those alarm systems. And then there's no way the odor can escape from them because there's actually a two-chamber system that when the holding, or when the tanker trucks come to pump out the tank, that the air will be trapped, the bad air, and we can pump it out without any odor escaping from the holding tanks. We intend to use low flow plumbing fixtures in the hotel. This will help us with keep our water usage down. One other thing that was brought up by the town in our last meeting is the town is interpreting the Walworth County ordinance in one way. I looked at it a different way. There may be a shortage of pervious surfaces on the site. If we do have a shortage, it's relatively small. It's a few thousand square feet. And
1 minute.
And we can use non-pervious or pervious pavers and pervious blacktop. Matt, can you go to the last slide? So, what are the benefits of this hotel? First of all, job creation. We're in a bad place in this country right now. We need jobs. We'll create about 15 permanent jobs. We'll create 70 construction jobs. A lot of those will be local tradespeople that we'll hire to work at the site. We'll pay significant real estate taxes without putting any drain on the school system. We'll pay significant sales tax. We'll attract hotel guests who will support local businesses. We will reduce the current runoff. Right now, there's a lot of runoff from the site into the lake. We'll reduce the runoff and the sediments going into the lake.
10 seconds.
We'll reduce the current noise level. We're going to significantly improve the aesthetic value, or site, the aesthetics of the site, and we're going to build a
That's
landmark.
time.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody wishing to speak forward?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Shannon. There's somebody on the line that I'm not familiar with. I'm gonna just unmute them and find out if they're here to speak in favor or against, if that is okay.
Sure.
I have somebody on the line with the name of Michael, and the telephone number is 414-915-5677. I have unmuted you. Are you here to speak in favor or against, or just to listen?
Mike,
Just to listen. We didn't hear that. Just to listen?
Just to listen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody wishing to speak forward? Please state your name and address.
Dion Mulcahy, North 9254 East Shore Road. I'm the neighbor of the property right next to the Proposed Hotel. I'm for it. There's been a lot of pollution, a lot of noise. I deal with it every day, all the time. It's gotten worse. I've been there 7 years. I'm constantly cleaning up all the garbage from the bar and stuff from that site. Like we said, we need something done there. We tried, we've been in favor of the last 3 things here, and we need something done there. This is a good opportunity to have that done. The shoreline is a mess, and this would clean that up too. It's all bunched in there. I just think this is the best thing that needs
Anybody wishing to speak for? State your name and address, please.
My name is Richard North, 9174 East Shore Road. I'm about 5 houses away. I have 3 small children, and I was first kind of against it when you hear everybody talk about it, and change kind of scares people, so I think that's what everybody is kind of worried about. So I did a little investigating. I have some friends that are in law enforcement in other towns that have hotels. I've talked to them. People are afraid of the degenerate people coming in and, crime. I've received no reports from any law enforcement officers or anybody I've talked to as far as an increase in that. Talked to the people in Lake Geneva that have the hotel downtown. It does in fact help the local businesses. I think it will help the traffic problems. Most hotel guests, I think, will be arriving, earlier in the evenings. There won't be the loud exits leaving after midnight or around midnight, the loud music. The site plan would alleviate a lot of the drainage and the pollution problems I think the present site has. I believe the present site is to a point where obviously something would need to be done fairly soon. I think my vision of this hotel is a little different than most. I think it's gonna, in fact, make the property and make the area better and more appealing. It's gonna bring more business, more people to enjoy the lake, which really is in our state constitution, that it's our job to let more people use lakes, not just the riparian right owners that seem like they wanna block everybody else from using it. So I'm strongly for it. I envision a nice place where like they have a little coffee shop, we could take our kids down there, maybe there'd be an ice cream place, something more conducive to family use, in making the area better and more pleasant for most people to enjoy. Thank you.
Anybody wish to speak for? State your name and address, please.
My name is Steve Schneider, W1260 Beach Road. I'm for the hotel. As the other people have said, we've been trying to do stuff on this property for many years. It's a dump. The lake the piers are very, very crowded down there. It's an eyesore. The property is currently used by anybody who wants to use it. It has to be monitored, and everybody comes and uses all the piers down there as a free-for-all. They come down, they use the piers, they leave their garbage, they park in the parking lot, and they're not even customers of the current business that's there. So I think it needs to be done. I think it's a beautiful proposal, and I'm for it.
Anybody wishing to speak for? Anybody wishing to speak for? If not,
Hold on, Shannon, anyone on the line for?
No.
if not, anybody wishing to speak against?
So in this instance, I believe we have an organized opposition of, that's my understanding, 3 attorneys are sharing this time.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Michael Bauer. I'm an attorney from Sheboygan, Wisconsin with Hop Newman Humke, 2124 Kohler Memorial Drive, Suite 310. I'm here on behalf of the Lake Beulah Management District. I also have Chairperson Dave Bitter of the district. He is also here. We have Attorney Daniel Bach on behalf of the Lake Beulah Protection and Improvement Association. And we also have Attorney Ron English on behalf of several private property owners in opposition. Earlier today, I had submitted a letter of opposition to Attorney Cotter to be submitted into the record and in your packets. I don't know if they have that.
It's not in their packets, it's in the record.
It's in the record. I do have copies. I'd like to distribute those if I may.
That's fine, yep. One of your colleagues can help distribute it if you.
Well, let's do this real quick. Okay, very good. The purpose or the mission of the Lake Beulah Management District is the protection of the lake. protection of the lake for all citizens, protection of the lake for the riparian owners. We're here in opposition because this particular development is just too large, too intense for this small 2.9 acre parcel of land. We, like the town, agree that the development does not satisfy town ordinances or county ordinances. Specifically, the property is zone B3 and R1. You can't build or develop a hotel in an R1 district. The developer would have you believe that they're not going to use the R1 district. That's not true. They need the setbacks from the R1 property. They need the area space for the R1 property. If they don't get the development, they don't have the sufficient space for development if they don't include the R1 property. 2, the development only provides for 64 off-street parking spaces, whereas the county requires 73. Now they're arguing that the parking stalls in the right-of-way, in the town right-of-way, should be allowed for them to use and be counted toward their parking requirements. That's not off-street. I mean, that's not off-site. Those are parking stalls in the road right-of-way. They need a variance for that. Furthermore, the town recognizes that they haven't provided any sufficient information about the well, the private well that's going to serve this hotel. It's 61 years old. There hasn't been any hydrological information provided. There hasn't been any mechanical inspection provided. The district is concerned about what kind of impact that well and use of that well will have on the lake levels, as well as the private wells of the residents located around the development. Our engineer, the district's engineer, has provided 3 professional conclusions. 1, the developer needs to document the capacity of the pump that will be placed in the well. Mechanical inspection and integrity of the well needs to be verified, and a hydrogeologist needs to be retained to analyze and prove that the impact on the wells will not affect the lake or private wells. Item 4, the traffic study prepared and submitted by the developer was done during the governor's safer at home orders. Those numbers, that data is just simply not adequate. Finally, the town also recognizes Finally, the town recognizes that the holding tank system is just not adequate for a development of this size. It's going to require numerous hauling, pumping, and order is expected. In addition to the letter that I just handed out, I also handed out my previous letters to the town, letters dated August 11 and August 20. Those are important because they maintain our other arguments related to lot sufficiency and shoreline regulation. In conclusion, we ask you to honor the town's opinion, respect the town's input. The town said no, the town denied this. In order for countywide zoning to be effective, you have to honor the local units of government. Thank you, I yield my time.
Good evening, members of the, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Daniel Bach. I'm an attorney with the law firm Lawton and Cates. Our business address is 146 East Milwaukee Street, Jefferson, Wisconsin. I am representing the Lake Beulah Protective and Improvement Association. And by way of background, I'm not just an attorney representing the association, although that's my capacity tonight. I grew up on Lake Beulah. My family bought a place there in the 1940s, so I know something about the history and the development of the lake. I too presented a submission to Attorney Cotter this afternoon. Copies have now been distributed to you. I don't intend to go into it in great depth, but I touch upon 3 primary points that are significant to the mission of the Lake Beulah Protective Association. Number 1 is the impervious surface area expansion that this project would cause. It's not just by a few thousand square feet like the applicant suggests, even under the most generous county standard, which is 40% impervious surface allotment. This project as proposed is over 7,600 square feet in excess of that. Impervious surface area adjacent to the lake creates water pollution, runoff from various sources, including parking lots and roofing materials and so forth, that's detrimental to the lake and aquatic life. Secondly, as Mr. Bauer referenced, we have concerns as well about the well. We have a history of dealing with well issues on Lake Beulah. There's been extensive testing done about the village as well on the other part of the lake. We know that the lake is spring fed. We know where the springs are. There are springs in close proximity to this project. There's been no testing of the well in the drawdown. Attached to my submission is the report of a hydrogeologist that the management district hired. He has significant concerns about the amount of pumping that would come. You know, their estimate was 72,000 gallons per day. Breaking that down would be 50 gallons per minute, but that assumes that pumping is uniform throughout the day. There certainly will be higher pumping rates during the course of the day when more people are using the water. So that is a concern that I've addressed in my letter. The third point, and it's something that the county ordinance indicates that this committee should consider, is the impact of a CUP application on property values. This application, while some of you've heard from some of the neighbors who think that it will be an improvement, others may well find that their wells are impacted by it. It certainly is going to lead to additional congestion. There will be traffic going from that area to that area. There's going to be this greater impervious surface area and impacts on the lake. There's going to be more lights, more traffic, more people. We're not quite sure what their plan is for voting yet, but obviously that's got to be incorporated in there. They intend to use the docking space. I'd just like to address a couple of points in response to what the applicant has said. We went through the history of the hotels on the lake. There hasn't been a hotel on Lake Beulah since the early 1900s, and the lake was quite a different place back then. And there was no shoreline zoning ordinance at that point. There are very few residential properties on the lake 120 years ago. Secondly, he mentioned that there were past proposals that were rejected for the property. That's irrelevant. Those proposals were all rejected for very good reasons. You know, it's not like you get to come to the plate X number of times and strike out, and then you come once again and automatically you're accorded a home run. This proposal isn't acceptable either. And finally, they mentioned that the buildings were in bad shape. The neighbors have concerns about, you know, noise and pollution and people and whatever. This is the same owner that's coming before you now, as has been running that property for these many years. The fact that the building has deteriorated is the owner's responsibility to take care of it. Once again, you don't get a CUP approved because you let the place get run down. I'll yield the rest of my time to Mr. English. Thank you.
Ron English, 720 Clinton Street, Waukesha, Wisconsin, 53186. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I represent a group of property owners who are concerned, and that says it lightly. They're worried about what this development and approval of this development portends to the future. Reasonable minds can debate what kind of property this should be, what kind of development this is this the right fit? But before you get to those questions, there are fundamental questions that need to be answered. Is this development safe? Is it safe for the community? Is it safe for the environment? Is it safe for this site? I submit to you the answer is no. I want to go into more detail about the sewer and septic system here. We are discussing a 68-room unsewered hotel, holding tanks. The applicant is very light on detail about this, other than saying that they are high sophisticated holding tanks. The state sets forth guidelines over how certain holding tanks should be managed. The estimate is 65 gallons per day per room. You multiply that by 68 rooms, and that's just your midpoint. That doesn't account for excessive use. That doesn't account for additional occupants. That doesn't account for these busy times of year that we know are going to happen. And that's where they're light on detail. And I agree with Attorney Bach that the applicant is presenting these red herrings in support of their argument. The idea that we need a development here because there's a dilapidated building, that's on the applicant. The idea that there have been other developments approved or submitted but not approved, and somehow they should get this one submitted, that just does not hold water in this case. They're fallacies. And this isn't a question of what should be there, whether it should be a coffee shop, whether it should be an ice cream shop, whether it should be a bar. This isn't a question of what type of people are gonna use a hotel, or whether we want that number of people even in this location. It's a question of safety. And this development is not safe. There is no detail there, and for those reasons, you should deny this. Now, should this board choose to approve it, there need to be substantial conditions added above and beyond what's recommended by the county planner. There is simply not enough protection here for this site, for the safety of the community, the safety of the residents, the safety of the people in and around this area. And if there is approval, there needs to be more conditions added. But I don't think you even get to the standpoint of where approval is submitted. It should be denied. It's not safe. Thank you.
Anybody wishing to speak again? Anybody wishing to speak against? Come on up and state your name and address.
Hello, Brian Beulah, N8690 Wilmers Grove Road, East Troy. I'm a board member of the Lake Beulah Protected and Improvement Association. I led the effort of our organization to solicit feedback from members on the proposed hotel by a survey in August, when 450 members, or 95% of the respondents, voted overwhelmingly against the hotel, noting concerns ranging from environmental risks from surface runoff and the hotel's septic system to the increased road, boat, and pier traffic. More recently, the LBPIA has led a letter writing campaign which has generated over 50 pieces of correspondence strongly opposed to the hotel, which have been delivered to the county. The letters encompass a wide variety of concerns and objections, which in the view of these concerned citizens represent fact-based, substantial evidence relative to the relevant statute that the conditional use permit should not be granted. These include poor fit with neighboring uses, density, environmental impacts to the lake and groundwater, property value deterioration,